Muy buenas amigos de Ready para Exportar. Guyana es uno de los países que más crece en el mundo y estamos dedicándole tiempo para conocer las experiencias, para conocer las oportunidades y tenemos hoy una voz muy autorizada para ello. Rafeek Khan is a leader of the private sector in Guyana. He is very well known and he has a lot of experience. Currently, he's the president of the Guyana Manufactura and Services Association. It's a privilege for us to have him here. He's also a member of the Guyana Dominican Chamber of Commerce, so he's already familiar with the bilateral opportunities as well. But Rafeek, everybody's talking about Guyana. Certainly, Dominican Republic and Guyana has developed in the last few years a very good relationship among the government as well as the private sector. But for those that still need to learn a little bit more about Guyana, tell us what is happening in Guyana and why it's such an important moment to look at Guyana as a potential market to do business.
Thank you for this opportunity, Ms. Mora. And there are many people still who don't know Guyana. Put it into context, Guyana is the only English-speaking country in all South America. It is positioned strategically as the gateway of South America to Guyana and the Caribbean to Guyana. Guyana, even though it's a small country, a population of less than a million, it's about 800,000 people. Many persons think the consumption in Guyana is small. Then also, Guyana's new oil economy has brought with it, within the last 5 years, an enormous amount of opportunities in every single sector of the non-oil sector, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about the consumption of Guyana, the consumer, who's buying, where the money's spending, why should an investor invest in Guyana, and where are the business opportunities? Anytime there's a new oil economy, comes with it almost every single nation around the world look at Guyana to invest in energy, in oil and gas. And then they also look at the other economies within the country to see where they can diverse their investments. Now, some investors will come to Guyana just for the oil and gas sector. But what has happened over the last several years, we have now seen the demand for all of the other products and services have increased at least by 150%, from housing to food and beverage, agriculture, professional services, consultancy services. I know this is focused around manufacturing, but there's quite a bit that is happening in almost every sector. We'll dive in a little bit about those sectors. But because of this new oil economy, we have found an enormous amount of benefits in investing in Guyana because of the consumption. And the consumption is not just the oil and gas companies. The consumption is the government of Guyana. The budget has been almost doubling every year to build out the economy, to build out the country, from ports to bridges to roads to manufacturing. Every single area that has been weak in the past to helping manufacturing is being built out. Let's talk about light manufacturing. So, and the traditional sectors that is being built out. So the light manufacturing, agro-processing is a wide array, food, let's say food and beverage. We have a couple of large beverage companies in Guyana, but still there's opportunities to doing manufacturing of food and beverages of all types in the country. When you look at the imports even into Guyana for food and beverage, you'll be surprised that we are importing 3 times more than we actually producing in beverage. Types of manufacturing we're looking at manufacturers who will invest in our traditional sectors, which I'll speak more about other sectors, and then bringing with them the expertise in efficiency, and which will then bring technology, competitiveness, and increase access to new markets. Now, other areas let's talk about construction. Whether it's housing, hospitals, hotels, airports, civil works, bridges, ports, roads, every single aspect of construction will be increasing, and not in the next 2 to 3 years. In the next 20 years, you can see this expansion happening. You may have heard of the new city being built and will be built out in the next 20 years called the Silica City. Phase 1 has already started. So this is an entire new city that is expected to have a population of 50,000 persons. Infrastructure work is being done. Phase 1 of the design is completed. As a matter of fact, the design work is already completed by an upgraded study by the University of Miami to the government of Guyana. But the point is, anyone from any part of the world could come to Guyana and look at our future cities that are going to be built. And these cities are coming with it a whole new array of everything that to be provided, not just home. You're talking about all amenities that goes towards a community, whether it's supermarkets, whether it's professional services, whether it's health and care, and so on and so on. So housing and construction, in terms of manufacturing, we are importing roofing, cement, concrete board, drywall, timber. Even though we have the world of forest, we are importing electrical, plumbing, everything that goes into that house we're importing. Flooring, granite we're importing. Now let's talk about what do we have as natural resources in the country to be able to manufacture the products in the construction sector that we're importing. We have the highest silica sand in the country. Guyana do export the silica sand to the DR for glass manufacturing. And I'm saying that if our sand is good enough to make glass, can you imagine the quality of our sand to do light manufacturing and concrete products? The quarry, we have stone quarry. We're not producing granite, but we have aggregates being produced. But even with at least a dozen major quarries in the country, we're actually importing stone and aggregates. In terms of timber products that goes into the manufacturing of housing in almost every area, whether it's flooring, siding, covering, cabinets, whatever it might be. We have one of the most sustainable tropical hardwood forests in the world, with less than 1% of it being impacted. And the allowable cut to maintain sustainability, it's impossible for any company to exhaust the natural resources, even though we're only harvesting a small percentage of our forest. At the moment, with that 1% allocated to our forest, we're actually only utilizing a third of it. And most of what we're utilizing is not into manufacturing as yet. We have a lot of small companies, a few small companies making cabinets and doors to a small level, flooring and so on. But no one is producing it to the scale that it becomes the commodity in which it is. These are building commodities that we could be producing. Any company coming into Guyana want to produce doors. Guyana is at least consuming at least 5,000 doors per month. You just look at the amount of homes that the government is building out. And if you will follow the government's manifesto in the last 5 years, the government would have allocated and provided and subsidized house lots, developed infrastructure work for building lots, house lots, for at least 50,000 persons. Now, what does that do for private sector? That then shows that there's land available already, at least 50,000, and let's say 10% of those have already been built out. It's not more than 10%. So you can imagine the amount of consumer in the country looking to build homes, which improves manufacturing in every area. Now, we're not even talking about the finishings of the home, whether it's plumbing fixtures, light fixtures, bathroom fixtures, paint finishings, concrete finishings, everything that you can think about or imagine, there's an opportunity to do those light manufacturing in country. So I hope I would have given you a couple of ideas. The textile industry has pretty much closed down over the years, the garment industry, and that is an opportunity I see the DR being strong with, that perhaps can partner with Guyana to see what we can do in increasing our manufacturing sector for garments and so on too.
Yeah, now that you mentioned partnership, Guyana manufacturing also offer the incentives. The government has incentives for manufacturing in Guyana, but also you have a private sector willing and able to partner with foreign companies to do all those manufacturers, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk about what are the incentives and the partnership opportunities that exist in Guyana. So these many companies, small companies, but large with its capacity in terms of infrastructure. There are many companies who have land, building, and concessions. When I say concessions, whether it's a gold concession, a forest concession, or fisheries or land for agriculture, whatever it might be. There are many companies already with those basic components to any business. Many times you're starting a business, the highest cost is land and warehouse and resources in terms of natural resources. That is what's going to save a lot of investors coming to Guyana in terms of partnership. Now that that sector is stabilizing itself, and now that the government would have spent money in bringing down the cost of manufacturing in certain areas to help businesses become more competitive, and there's two areas I'll tell you just now about, but now that there's room now for companies to think about competitiveness and partnership and consortium building is when the traditional sectors can now see profits. Companies like myself, who have been in the forestry sector for about 20 years in logging, sawmilling, and manufacturing of wood products, we would have survived and sustained and made profits even through the challenges of our infrastructure, high energy costs, and limited skills and limited technology. We would have done well. But can you imagine even now, where you have no taxes and fuel, you have fiscal incentives for manufacturing that is almost every manufacturing you can think of. There's waiver in equipment. There's no duties that you will pay in your equipment for almost every sector. And the infrastructure, when you're moving your raw material from the forest to your factory, before those costs used to be enormous because of the amount of cost to barge or truck your raw material to the factory. Now, because of these major roads, the cost of raw material is coming down in terms of logistics. Energy, even though our energy cost has not yet reduced, a lot of companies are still self-producing their own power. But can you imagine gas to shore is going to be here soon? And in terms of that, infrastructure for that, those network of energy has already been built out, and we can see that energy costs will be reduced at least by 70%, we were told. Almost every major airports in the world is having direct access to Guyana, and almost weekly flights. So traveling to Guyana, it has become even easier. So we look at this as being plus for businesses. I just want companies and investors to be confident when you come to Guyana and you explore Guyana and look at opportunities. And if you take years in doing feasibility or sometimes months, the opportunity is gone. And this is what I caution a lot of potential investors. This country is growing so much that in every sector, you can actually just close your eyes to feasibility for a moment and just ask yourself the question, look at the data and see what the country is importing. Just on trade data alone, you will be able to see for yourself what is the import cost and what is the demand. Even within the Caribbean, you can see what is the import cost and what could we do as regional partners to help build out the economy in almost every sector that we have.
Time is almost running out, but I want you to talk about, you mentioned education at the high level leadership, but also there is need for training also of the workforce. Tell us a little bit about the opportunity on the training and consulting support sector.
Yes, there's both in training and compliance services, because with the new economy, as you can imagine, expectations are high when it comes to quality and compliance. Hence, lots of training. From education in every sector is necessary. The ICT is growing and helping to bring more education to Guyana through technology from other countries. But in terms of trainings, health and safety training, compliance training for products compliance, again, in every sector, whether it's food and beverage or whether it's building and construction or whether it's the oil and gas sector, training is necessary. And not just one-time training, ongoing training. There's also our technical institutes that needs to be improved to give more technical type of education for those who doesn't have tertiary education from universities and so on. So you have education and training happening continuously, and it's greater now in the oil and gas sector But even in the government sector, every ministry of the government, they're having to train their workforce and increase their workforce, because sometimes you think the training is only for private sector companies. No, it is for all ministries of Guyana government, that those services sometimes are contracted out, and the government of Guyana, along with public and private sector, we're looking for help in these areas.
This has been a very enlightening interview. But before we go, if companies wants to learn more about those manufacturing and investment opportunity, can they go to JMSA? And you also have JMSA is going to have a big event that companies also can attend. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, well, Guyana Manufacturing Services Association actually covers a wide array of investment opportunities. But what's the key in coming to us? And through our website, gmsa.org, or you can just Google the acronym GMSA and type Guyana, you will see us. But through the Guyana Manufacturing Services Association, you can connect with businesses who are looking to build capacity. We are, I won't say a large chamber, we are about 350 plus members, but very focused and intentional members in manufacturing in every sector. And you can easily target business opportunities by speaking to us and identifying which of our members wants to build more capacity. We have this weekend, we have what you call the on-cap event, showcasing at least 100 of our agro-processors, small, medium, and large, at the stadium in Guyana in Providence. This is an annual event. So we always are having events to be able to showcase our members, and we're always participating in Guyana's event too. And also Go Invest. Through Go Invest in Guyana, investors can go there and be pointed to business opportunities in the country. Thank you so much for this. And it's been a pleasure speaking to your potential investors.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rafeek Khan, president of the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Associations. Y ustedes los vemos la próxima semana en Ready para Exportar y en Metrópolis.